and welcome to another sensational Sunday. I'm Mike, and this week, let's go ahead and hop into the news about the Oculus Quest 2. Right now, it is under a voluntary recall, and that is because the foam insert, the one that goes against your face, apparently is causing skin irritation for some people. So you can basically submit a form through the Quest to request a silicone cover for it. As of right now, they're temporarily halting the sales of the Oculus Quest 2 altogether, so that way they can go ahead and put those inserts in the box of the products that they're selling going forward. And also, when it comes back, which will be on August 24th, they're dropping the 64 gig model in place of a 128 option, so at $300 you're gonna get double the storage. So if you've waited to buy an Oculus Quest 2, when it goes back on sale will probably be the optimal time, because now you're getting double the storage if you're gonna go ahead and buy the base model, which is what I got, which makes me a little bit sad because I should have waited. Could have got more for my money, but that's fine though. I actually like the Oculus Quest 2. As far as this whole thing, it's really hard to predict what people's skin will react to, and since these VR headsets are going directly on your face, then yeah, it could have some unknown reactions. They did say that they tested it and they didn't find any hazardous materials in the foam, but you know, people's faces, everybody's faces are different. So I don't really blame Facebook or Oculus on this one. I worked at a consumer electronics company before, and there were all kinds of weird things, like telephones, and of course we sold shavers and stuff. And every time people would call in, we just basically had to submit a form to the legal team to let them know about what happened. But it was definitely something that a lot of companies track, because you just don't know when it comes to products that are going to touch people's faces or skin in general how they're going to react to it. So I think that they've handled it really well, honestly, and it's Facebook, and I don't like complimenting Facebook, but in this scenario, I think they've handled it well. It makes sense to pull the units that they have right now and go ahead and put that insert in there. And also, it's cool that they're upping the storage to 128 on the base model when it goes back on sale. So overall, this is one of the few things that Facebook has handled correctly. Speaking of a transition that I couldn't possibly make work, so I just kind of threw it in here, Sony announced that the PS5 is their fastest selling console, specifically Sony's, their fastest selling console of all time. Now, I know I've reported on this before whenever someone's like, oh, this is the fastest selling console of all time, but I gotta get tired of it. The reason that this was funny is just because they said that it was Sony's fastest selling console of all time. And I'm like, what does this mean? So Ars Technica did a breakdown of all the consoles, and it looks like it's basically second place to the Wii. So the Wii did reach 10 million units before the PS5 did, but yeah, it's still doing really well. I mean, all these consoles are selling out. I don't know why it's even necessary for Sony to get out there and be like, this is the fastest selling Sony console of all time and nobody can buy one. But that's cool though. I mean, I'm glad that they're doing well. I'm glad that Microsoft's doing well, because they really struggled last generation. As soon as they come in, they're gone. Like, if you want a PS5 or Xbox, it's gone. They didn't drink it all. Like a smoothie. A green smoothie. Or a blue smoothie, depending on which side you're on. Speaking of smoothie, I wish things could go more smoothly with this beta update for the PlayStation 5. This has been a long talked about feature. Well, it's not really a feature, it's kind of a must-have. If you have bought a console, especially in the last few years, there's gonna be times where you run out of space and you need to update. Out of the gate, Microsoft had their own proprietary solution. I mean, it's still the same type of storage, but basically they just put it in the card that slots into the back of the system. Meanwhile, Sony decided to go with a more consumer-friendly route and let you install your own M.2 SATA SSD, not SATA, M.2 NVMe SSD. It specifically says on their page, not SATA. It hasn't been available yet, and they're just now putting it into beta, and we're like 3 months away from the system being a year old. So while it's great that they offer this option, I'm guessing they run into some issues considering how long it's taken for them to get this off the ground. I know that there was a report of heating issues, which is pretty much confirmed by the way that they're handling this whole M.2 upgrade. The new version of the beta, you can finally, at least beta testers can go ahead and install third-party drives. Now, initially, back in the day when Sony announced this whole thing, before it came out last year, they said that they were gonna have a compatibility list of drives that are certified to work with the system. That is not available yet, so the beta testers are basically gonna have to go in and try a drive that just matches the specs of what Sony says is required. GameSpot has gone ahead and at least put in a list together themselves of drives that match the specs on paper. The other thing is, basically Sony said it has to have a heatsink up there, even if the drive doesn't come with one. And if it doesn't come with one, then it has to match the size of basically the hole that is in the PS5 in order to put a drive in there. So that's just like another layer of confusion on top of the fact that they don't even have an official list ready. Granted, it is in beta right now, so maybe by the time it goes public, they'll have at least a handful of drives that are recommended to buy. These drives right now are still super expensive because it's PCIe Gen 4 and they're really fast. Like, I mean, in my computer, I spent like $100 for a 1 terabyte M.2 last year, but that's PCIe Gen 3, and it's like almost half the speed of the PlayStation's internal drive. So even in the PC space, like a lot of these drives are still new and expensive, which it is good that Sony is allowing these drives to be used because that's going to bring down the price for everybody, even on the PC side, which is great. But I still think from a consumer standpoint, it's going to be really confusing, and it's going to be a lot of anxiety around trying to install these drives in the system, being that you have to open the system and slide it in and screw it in versus Microsoft's solution of just putting this card in the back of the system. So I don't think that a lot of the users that buy this console that are not tech savvy will end up upgrading the storage. It may sound like I'm exaggerating a bit, but I've worked in support / IT for 7 years now, and a lot of people, even taking off a cover off of a computer or a game console, is just too much for them. Like if I talk to most of my friends who don't play games on PC and just have a console, a lot of them aren't tech savvy. I don't think they would want to do this. Like if they had to install the drive, they wouldn't even want to open the PS5. Whereas like, of course, my friends who also have a PC and have upgraded themselves are not going to have any issues doing it. So I still think there's like a barrier of entry, even though it is fairly easy in my opinion, but just knowing how people are, I still think it's a higher barrier of entry than Microsoft's solution. That's the dealio right now. So if you want to enroll in the beta software, technically you can buy a drive and test it out. Sony is not guaranteeing that any drive will work because they have not tested any of them apparently, or tested them extensively enough to say that they'll work. Yeah, it's a little bit messy right now, but it's not going to take that long for manufacturers to catch up anyway. Like these drive manufacturers are going to be like certified, works for PlayStation 5. Even the heatsink manufacturers probably like fits the PlayStation 5, and they'll probably put their little logos and stuff up there to make sure that people know that their drive works with the PS5. So this is a short-term issue as far as the compatibility. And again, hopefully everything gets ironed out by the time this goes live. Speaking of going live, I'm going home. I'm already home, but I'm going to go do other stuff like edit this video and make other content. But if you enjoyed this video, then make sure to tell a friend, tell a coworker, like, share, and subscribe, and always do at least 2 things at the same time. Peace.